I'd like to start with just a little bit of music. And it's kind of surprising but I feel inspired to play this music. It's from a CD that I made called In the Mist that I made years and years ago. And the thing is, first I have to tell the computer what to do. I have to do all of these things. This is a brief song called Dream March. It's not a lyric, not a vocal. It's an instrumental. Oh, turn down the speakers. What did you feel when you heard that song? It wasn't exactly rock and roll, was it? Or Frank Sinatra?
Felt very peaceful.
You felt peaceful. You turned the speakers up?
Yes.
I felt a little sad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt the tension, like something's coming.
Yeah. And I felt yearning.
A dirge to me, like a funeral march.
Mm-hmm. Can you hear her?
Yes. I felt that way too. It felt like, I called it Dream March. And we were marching like in a dream. And, I wonder if this, because I'm still intuitively guided. I never know what I'm going to do until after I do it. And, I felt guided to start with this. And I thought, well, that's not very rallying, or it's not going to pep us up or anything like that. But it feels like, on the one hand, we are in this dream state and we're marching towards destruction without ever stopping to question what we're doing and why. And do you ever feel that way about the world as it is?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what, to me, it's just that drumbeat of we just keep, like we're the lemmings going to fling ourselves into the sea.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because it felt like a death march to me.
Yes, exactly.
She's
Make it
way
louder.
far away from the mic.
Yeah. Well, we just have to make it louder so that we can hear people. Let's see what we can do. Thanks, James.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to stop that march. We have been doing a lot of outreach lately around our mobilization for people to meet the needs of people and the planet, where we're saying the purpose of the economy is to produce the goods and services that we need in order to regenerate ourselves and be well and to be able to function and be happy. And nobody seems to remember that in an economy which is based on profit. This is like everything's about profit, 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 money, 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 money. It's like nobody even remembers what we need the money for or what we need the profit for. I read something kind of ludicrous in the news about the gross domestic product has grown by 3% this quarter, and therefore people can't be upset because of financial reasons. Well, has your gross domestic product increased 3% this quarter? Mine hasn't. I don't even know what they're talking about. Somebody's making more money, but it's so it's so detached. These numbers, these ways of talking about our economy, economic growth and all of that. People are still hungry. People still need shelter. People are still lacking health care. People are lacking love. People are lacking clean water. People are lacking the fundamentals. Our children are lacking the support they need to turn into human beings rather than to be geared into some kind of career path when they're 5 years old. And our criminal justice system is criminal. Our incarceration rate of especially minorities is outrageous. But the GDP went up 3%. So really, guys, what's the problem? You think about it, it's just crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, people are, the thing that shocks these commentators is that people are still unhappy. And they're unhappy about politics. Like the real problem is politics. Like that's the problem. Oh, maybe if we could euthanize all the politicians today, our problems would go away. Your back wouldn't hurt anymore. People would not be stressed. Kids wouldn't be screamed at by their parents. There would be no violence in the street. Something is rotten in the state of Denmark. Now, we have been putting out posts talking about this mobilization for a society to meet the needs of people and the earth. And we got so much positive response. And one person after another said, I'm coming. I'm going to come on the 28th. I really support this. I want to be part of this. And we're replying to them and all of them. And most of them, of course, didn't show up. The ones who showed up, we didn't expect, except for the people at Westmont. But we've had a personal relationship, which is so cool. Once you kind of meet somebody, then they know who you are and you know who they are, and there's more likelihood that we'll carry on. And so we could be sitting here, and I'm the person who always believes in talking about the elephant in the living room. And, it's disappointing that so many of these people, you had on your Facebook page, we had someone from Canada, we had someone from Australia, we had someone from India, we had someone from Denmark or whatever it is.
Somebody from the United Kingdom.
All kinds of people, say, I'm coming, right? I'm coming. And then they don't come. So either we're going to shoot ourselves and stop fighting, or we keep going. And we either look for a new strategy or we say, I don't care whether they show up in person or not. I know. And you know why I know? Because when I looked at our Facebook post for this week, I'm going to share this with you guys because you came. And so you have the misfortune of you have to put up with me until this comes to an end. So, and we had our very first message, which we put out about, let's get together and talk about what we need and what we want, and that the purpose of society is to regenerate us. And, that means we need healthcare, clean water, love, meaningful work, a sense of community and instead we have stress, insecurity, resentment, exploitation, a lack of sense of well-being, and so on. If we were well, we wouldn't have so much addiction and violence, and let's get together. Okay, that had 1,628 people were reached. And this post had 114 likes, 15 loves, 19 comments, and 17 shares. That was when we first started this. Now, I want to tell you what happened with my latest post. And my latest post was,
There it is.
let's call off the war on one another. Let's call off the war on ourselves. And I talk about the brutality of our society. I talked about the tax cuts that are supposed to help us, that more than 2/3 of the benefit would go to the top 1%, income transferring to the top, CEOs earning 20 times the amount of a typical worker in 1965, and now they earn nearly 300 times more, and so on. And then there's problems that are not economic: air, water, soil, insecurity,
what about the
basic health care, and so on. The question isn't whether or not our well-being is eroded, the question is, why do we put up with it? And we're saying we're distracted by fighting against each other, fighting for each other for our gender, our race, religion, political party, culture, gender identity, or geographic region, instead of fighting for a future that brings economic and physical and social well-being to all of us. And that one reached 3,350 people, which was a good double. And here's, you probably don't remember any of these numbers, but I'm telling you that they're much better, so you can be impressed. We had 323 likes, 36 loves, 2 ha's, 2 sads, 4 angries, 107 comments, and 109 shares.
Woo-hoo.
So why am I telling you this? Because if you look around the room, you think we're not getting anywhere. And we have increased dramatically in the response that we're getting. And the fact that people are saying, I'm with you, I love what you're doing, I'm going to show up. I want to listen to that voice instead of the one that says, but they didn't. And I love to pieces the people who did show up. I love it. I feel better, but I want everybody here to know that this voice is growing. These numbers are minuscule. Even, 313 likes, but trust me, it's not easy to get that unless you have a picture of a kitten playing with a ball of wool. Or if you have some kind of a thing, I hate so-and-so, you may get a lot of likes on that. But, we're talking about something substantive, non-polarizing. I mean, I ask you, who's going to like that?
Right.
If you're not giving people a chance to vent their spleen and talk about how stupid the other side is, I mean, who's going to like that? But I'm telling you that I can feel it in my fingers. I feel it in my toes, like the old song says from so many hundreds of years ago when we were younger, and that was a popular song, that there is something happening. People are unhappy with the way things are. And yes, we are still lashing out at each other. It makes me sick. We're still polarizing around my group, my group, my group, my group. It's like, I'm a Muslim, I'm the most oppressed. No, I'm a woman, I'm most oppressed. Or I'm Black and I'm most oppressed. Or I'm Hispanic and I'm most oppressed. Or, I'm disabled and I'm most oppressed. I mean, we are in a society of, competing most oppressednesses, but we are all oppressed. I mean, I don't think there's a human being alive in this society who is well, and I'm talking about the rich as well as the poor. I mean, believe it or not, it doesn't mean that I don't get, 8 men own the same amount of value of the bottom 50% of the world's population. 8 men. It said men. It didn't say people. It said men. I don't care if it would be 8 women, 8 giraffes, 8 elderly, 8 children. It doesn't matter. It's 8 and billions of people, and what we're doing to the earth, we know how bad it is. I mean, it's just unreal. Now they're going to they're going to shrink the national monuments so that we can drill for more fossil fuels, so we can pollute the air, so we can have more global warming, so we can spend billions of dollars more on the destruction of, trying to recover. And our poor fellows in Puerto Rico who are dying and still don't have water, but they're the wrong color, they speak the wrong language. Let's just face the facts, Sickening, isn't it? But nobody is well. Nobody is well. I mean, we have people here who are executives, and they're stressed out of their minds, and their bosses are stressed, and everybody is stressed because everybody has to produce a profit, or women have to stay young so they can keep their husbands, even if you're rich. Maybe you can afford more plastic surgery, but, what can I say? It's bad. And people are drug addicted. They're stressed. They're stressed. We don't have what we need, which is love. And yet, you put this message out, and I'm still getting attacked, when I put out this message, So just yesterday, some woman attacked me for being a liberal. I finally realized how I should respond to her, and I'm going to respond to her, and I'm saying I'm not a liberal. I care. And I believe we need more love in our world. And I think you probably need a hug. See how far that goes. So I want to wake up from this dream march of the lemmings. I'm thinking we allow this, we perpetuate it, we are the people. I mean, if everyone said no, the world would change, wouldn't it? I mean, because we are the world. We really, everyone. If the top executives said, no, profit isn't the most important thing. What's really important is what is the product that we're producing? Is it meeting people's needs? How we treat our employees is important. Is more important than the shareholders that I don't even know who they are and nobody knows me. They could change everything. The workers could change everything and say, we've been bought up and we need to start to organize again. Women could change everything by raising our sons to be human beings rather than to be violent and competitive and macho and beat their chests. Men could change everything by dropping the mask and admitting that they're scared, just like everybody else, and they don't want to hurt each other, and they're tired of pretending that they're invincible and invulnerable. I mean, who couldn't change everything?
Reminds me of where to invade next.
We can't hear you.
Reminds me of where to invade next.
Yeah, that was a great movie by Michael Moore where he's showing that there are places where people do better. Just because we brutalize our prisoners doesn't mean that's the way it has to be. Just because we take away the vote of felons in order to eliminate people of color because they are disproportionately arrested doesn't mean that's the way it has to be. Just because women have worn high heel shoes forever doesn't mean, you know how I hate that, that's the way it has to be. But here it is. And so we want to change the world from the inside out. We really are looking for the question of what do we really need in our world, and how can we change the conversation from profit and power to people and the earth to get our needs met. And then, as Aryeh was saying, what are those needs? And Helen was talking about that earlier. What are those needs? And so when I was meditating on what we should talk about today in this event, it felt like we should talk about what we do to ourselves, because I can point the finger to them and say, they are doing this to me, and they are doing this to me. But what have I done to myself? What am I doing to myself? Am I actually even willing to look at what my needs are, or is it just too threatening? Because I might do something crazy and stop doing something that everybody wants me to do. Do I really nurture and care for myself? Much less does the world nurture and care for me. So I would like us to get to that. But before we do, I just want to make a very brief kind of overall picture for those of you who haven't been with us before, which is that regeneration means, you know, what it takes in order for us to get up every day and go to work, or to get up every day and take care of our children, or get up every day and clean our house, or get up every day and just get up every day. For some of us, that's a real challenge, just to get up every day. You know, what does it take? And that's, you know, housework. The role of women over the millennia has been to take care of people and the home and all of that. And that has been given no value. You know, it's not paid. It's like, you know, it's not even counted. Do you work? Oh, no, I don't work. You know, I'm only raising 4 kids or 1 kid, or I'm trying to wash my own dishes. I don't do any work. And so that work has been women's work, and it's been invisible. And that is the work of regenerating us, our mates, our partners. We try to help them to go to work so they can get eaten up alive when they get there. And we take care of the wounded when they get home from work. Or we take care of our wounded children when they get home from school. Or we don't even have time or the energy left to take care of them, and we send them out to talk to their friends or their brothers or their sisters. And we have to reproduce the next generation. This is reproduction and regeneration, and this is the role of housework, and it's been invisible, and it still is, because we don't even think about that as work. We don't even realize that that is the foundation of the whole existence and survival of the human race. That if we didn't take care of ourselves and raise our children, we would not exist. So, is it surprising that I'm saying that the purpose of the economy and the society is to regenerate us and reproduce the next generation? No, because that is what we're here to do, not to make a profit. That making a profit or not making a profit or using money or not, it's just, you know, a mechanism. It's like, okay, is this working? I don't think so. I think that when we're focused on making profit, we are focused on the amount of money we're producing rather than the amount of good that we are creating. So I wanted to put this out before we start talking about our own needs, because so much of what I have lacked in myself is looking at what I need and trying to go for it. I've been doing everything but my whole life. So no, making myself good food, taking care of my health, giving myself leisure time, like that's some kind of a like sinful indulgence. You know, like people don't really need time to socialize, to reduce their stress, to play music, to do art, to find self-expression. You know, these are the essentials of healthy living, but they're not paid. They're not associated with making money. So, yeah. But in my case, I have never been money oriented. What I've been trying to save the world my whole life, at least since I'm 5. That's when I first remember getting involved in trying to save the world.
What took you so long?
Really, and I'm 72 now, going on 150. Those of you who know me know my health is that bad. But I never thought about taking care of myself because there was always something much more pressing to do, which was to save you. Right? It's terrible how you're treated. So I'm going to do something about that. But what about me? So I'm not into let's all get about us and start getting selfish. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that I have treated myself with brutality also. Just as I've been treated with brutality by men, by the police, by bosses, by the subway system, by people on Facebook who don't see anybody here. They just see an enemy or somebody they can vent at. Or by my brother. But I have done it too. So who would like to open the sharing on what you may have done to yourself. What do you need? Are you willing to look at it? And are you willing to change? And if not, why not? So some people have been preparing to speak today, just to open up that sharing. And I'd love to hear from you right now. Who feels like they're first? Did I see a hand in the, yes.
I think you've already opened it up by sharing what you shared. And I am that. I have pushed myself, not in direction of necessarily, I mean, more recently it's been caring, you know, and I still do it. I mean, I try to have a balance because I know about this now. But as a man, you know, I'm very oriented towards achievement. You know, I'm just driven for achievement and for, you know, it's kind of a recognition. What I'm really hungering for is love. I know this now, but I didn't. And I tried to go about getting it in all the ways by trying to get respected by people, thinking that would make me feel loved. But by trying to extract respect from people, I actually made them like me less.
Yeah.
You know, that's been the kind of underlying fundamental thing that I think has been there through the whole time since I saw my dad doing the same thing. You know, I learned it. I go, okay, that's what it is to be a man, and I'll just do that same thing. And, you know, I saw it was bankrupting him, but I did it anyway.
Yeah.
You know, I knew at some level that it wasn't satisfying. It wasn't fulfilling. He was on his 6th marriage and, you know, so, and not even that is happiness, like having the marriage that looks right. It's just getting those needs met. So that's, I'm ready. I'm saying I'm ready, and I know I'll need a lot of support, and that's why I'm in this community, because I know as soon as I walk out this door, I'll be like, I got to get back on that website and get that website finished. You know, whether it's our website or someone else's website, you know, I'm already thinking about the other things I have to get done when I get home today, you know, and I want to have, you know, fun with my children. They are fun, and not just stick them in front of their computer, but actually have engaging. And we're starting to do that. We had a conversation this week in our family about how do we feel loved? What makes us feel loved within our family? So we're beginning the conversation, and it's exciting. It's refreshing. It's like, what do I need as a man to feel loved? What do I need from other men to feel loved? How can I open myself up to that level of vulnerability where I don't have to feel like I have to be tough guy that doesn't need anything?
Yeah.
So that's, for me, the beginning.
That's awesome, Todd. It's like you wake up in a new world. By the way, we have a new person joined us, Anna Sklar. Anna, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us where you're from?
I don't know how to introduce myself.
Well, you could say I'm Anna Sklar.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I am from UK and interested in esoterics. I like your ideas, or how you say it, thoughts, because it's advanced, it's universal, synthetic, and that's what everybody wants. We just don't know how to implement it.
Yeah. I love it, Anna. Thank you so much for joining us from the UK. Yay!
Yay! Glad to hear you, Anna. It's wonderful.
Yeah. So we have a great group today. So this is one of the people who said she was coming who actually did come. So look at that, you see?
And Granny, we have more people that joined us here also.
Oh, right. Well, tell us who else has joined us.
I can't give it to you because I'll
My name is Leela Kano.
Hello, Leela. And this is the first time we've met you too, right?
Yes, I've never met you before.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I can't bring it over to you. I'm sorry. I'm disconnected.
My name is Stanley Kano. I'd like to mention that I think we should think back of how we took care of our own kids which in this era, we have forgotten those kids, and that they would be not getting into drugs and many other things. I think it would be a complete change.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so now everybody has been introduced. I'm glad. Let's keep it up as new people join us to talk. Okay, so for those people who came in a little bit late, I've talked about the fundamentals of of why we ignore our needs, in terms of them not having any value because they don't make money. Everything in our world is oriented towards making a profit rather than actually trying to create value for people and for the earth so that we don't regenerate. We've talked about that. And we've talked about the fact that we're all suffering in this world, whatever our color, religion, gender, we're all suffering, even when we have money, the stress, it's a very stressful world. And that it's, as Todd was saying, it's because we don't feel loved, that Todd just brought this up. We don't feel loved. We don't feel safe. I don't feel safe. People are crazy. People are crazy. They're so stressed. They're crazy, or they're taking drugs, or they're at their last limit, or they've been revved up. They're angry and they're just taking it out on each other. And it doesn't feel like a very safe world, is it? No. And we're not focused on caring. I don't know, that the school system is not focused on how do we raise children to be caring to one another, number one, versus how are we going to make sure that our kids meet some standardized test score, which on something that they'll never need. So we have a couple of educators in the room today. So who else would like, I love what you said, Todd, and who would like to share next about how have you treated yourself? We're talking about how we may or may not have even dealt with our own needs. What are they, and what gets in the way of doing that?
Yeah, I'd like to share next.
Okay, and I saw Helen first and then Chris.
Sure.
Well, it's interesting. I feel like I follow Todd because he talked about how he has abused himself in a kind of stereotypic male way. And I feel like I've abused myself in a fairly stereotypic female way, even though I was raised by a very liberal, progressive woman who, taught never rely on a man and blah, 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 always make your own money, which of course I did go to school and got an education so I could support myself, because in our country there is no backup. You got to do it yourself. But I was addicted to having men love me, or pretend, that they loved me. And I think, many of us women have gotten into that pattern of subjugating what we really need in order to try to get someone to act like they love us. And, I have been addicted to food and relationships and, many, many things like many, many people, rather than what I really need of love and regeneration and all the things that you're talking about. So even though I went into a career where I'm helping other people, that becomes part of that same cycle that you were talking about, of helping other people, but not taking care of myself. So I think that's it.
Thank you. In fact, I think I had the idea that to take care of myself was intrinsically selfish. It is so ironic because here, I've been teaching that we need to care for one another. And yet the thing is that we are selfish, but we are not self-caring.
I think that is part of the paradigm too, that we're supposed to take care of the men's needs. They're the important ones. And women, if you're being somehow a brazen bitch, if you think you have the right to get your needs taken care of, you know what I mean? So I think that's part of this whole thing. of feeding the men who feed the prophet, who feed the machine, and we are just, the subservient ones who are meant to be doing that.
The little woman.
Yeah, we're taught that we are selfish if we have, want to be taken care of in some way.
Yes, and I'd like to say something about that selfish self-care thing, because we are taught to be selfish. I'm supposed to think of me, my family, my community, my race, my state, my region, my nation, my whatever, religion. So it's all like mine. And yet at the same time, there is no self-care, because we go for the selfish stuff because our needs are not met. I really believe that if our needs were met, we wouldn't feel so desperate for all the things that we don't need, or that we wouldn't be so self-protective. We would feel relaxed. I don't know about you, but when I'm in the company of people that I feel loved by, I am way more generous. I just feel like, oh, I'm safe. I'm going to be taken care of. And here, let me help you. But when I don't feel like, there's no safety net in this country, when everybody is so brutal, I feel like driven into protecting myself, putting up a wall. And that is not self-care, because when I put up a wall, I am keeping out the things that I need. I know many of us have done that on an emotional level.
Oh, yes.
Right? Who would like to share next?
I'm going to
Chris.
share. Yeah. It really is a perfect segue, because as you've talked about, and I can feel in my bones, capitalism, the core of capitalism is profit, and the core of free market competition is that only the strong survive. And I have a degree in economics, and I'm in the business world, and I'm in the insurance industry, which is very driven by sales. So I live that brutality. And what I've seen, it's interesting to hear Helen talk about the stereotypical female, because I'm 10 years younger, and I see women coming up in the industry, and I see how many of us have adopted stereotypical male traits of competing and dominating and not taking care of ourselves, and believing that competing and getting the next job and the next title and feeling a larger sphere of power is what would make us feel better. And there's no love in that. And we lose our intuition, we lose our compassion. And myself, where I look at how I brutalize myself is I bought into it, and I overwork. And I had this awareness recently that because I'm so desperate to feel loved, I will misinterpret people wanting me to do work as love. Like, right? So,
oh yeah, you're so valuable.
Yes. And so when I get calls from the successful men in the company who are like, Chris, can you come to this meeting? Chris, can you help me close this deal? Chris, can you work on this report for me? I'm like, look at me. They like me. They like me. They like me. They like me. And as I've been listening, to your teachings recently, and I had that like stark awareness that actually has nothing to do with me. And if I drop dead, or if I quit tomorrow, either someone else will come along and take my place, or the job won't get done. But no one's to say, but Chris, we love you and we want you here because who you are as a human is a person we want in our space. But I kept misinterpreting the work as like, see, I matter and I'm valuable. And so that actually at first was really scary to me, because my whole survival strategy was built on that. But as I let it kind of, integrate, and we do our work in our ego recovery group, I've now moved into the place of like, I don't want this in my life, and I don't want to create a life for other people to have this. So I've just, with the support of our community and Beth, been able to start asking for what I need. And this week I've just started saying to people that are senior to me, including my boss, like, this is not sustainable. So the brutalization, and like what you were talking about, Beth, that you come home and you can't nurture your family. Like,
Yeah.
I have nothing left because I put all my energy into competing and winning and surviving at work. Got nothing left. I'm mean to my husband. I'm not present for my son. So then they in turn go to what their substitutes are for love. Right? So
Yeah.
it's perpetuating that whole cycle where no one feels loved.
Yeah.
Amen.
I have something to go along that lines.
Yes.
So I'm Lizzie. I just started a new job. It's a corporation. It's, just in the Pacific Northwest region. And I'm seeing this as far as, the director, it's like, well, you could help us if we don't give you time to do your paperwork and you just do it on your own time, because we need to meet these productivity standards.
Oh, there it is.
And I'm like, oh, and I just started on Wednesday. And I've already been going in early and staying late. And I'm like, oh, wow, I really want to get support so that I can help bring these concepts in a loving way and not get angry and grumpy about it. And, we had an example of, okay, so to help, coworkers, be friends, we have every quarter we go out and do something fun. And we went out to this game where you laser tag, where you put on this vest with these plastic pieces, and you have this little plastic gun that will beam out lasers, and you try and shoot the other team. And I was so upset when I got there. I didn't know what I was getting into, and I didn't say anything.
Oh.
But I got in, went in, it was just, everything was so quick, and I just went in. I got yes to going, but then when I got there, I didn't stop and say, hey, wait a minute, I don't want to do this. I don't believe in this. This feeds violence. It makes violence okay. Because it's just a game, and it makes, pointing at somebody and trying to, play shoot. But anyway, I ended up getting injured. Somebody ran into me.
Whoa.
And I was just so upset. I mean, I'm okay, but, I'm hurt from it. And so I was so upset that night with my coworkers, I couldn't say anything because I was just crying. I get upset, I cry. And anyway, I just really, what I've been learning from this organization, I can see how it's so applied here. And for me to find the strength to come up and say something in a loving way. And so the next day I went in and I explained, this is why I couldn't say anything, because to me, it's feeding violence, and it's okay to play these violent games. We're taught this way. We're taught how to compete in our whole entire society. From we're little, we're taught to compete, and how that just causes us to separate from one another and not go towards each other. And I feel like I was talking to a blank wall.
Really?
Yes. And one coworker that organized everything, he's like busily typing on his computer as I'm trying to talk to him, because he's so stressed and just so. I think there's some incentive financially, if we meet certain numbers. That's the sense I'm getting so far. So it's like, it feels like a huge mountain to climb. But I want to do it. I want to do what I can, and I want to get the support to try and do what I can. And at the same time, take care of myself and not feel like I have to bring that computer home and do all this paperwork at home. Not to give up my lunch. But I don't know what to do because they're not giving me the time that I need to do what they're demanding that I do.
Yeah. Well, I think that, what you're talking about, Lizzie, is so critical and so typical.
It is. It's totally expected, not just in my industry as a physical therapist, but any medical field, the insurance industry, corporation, or not even a corporation, but even a small business. They're like, well, we can't meet your numbers. We can't pay you if you don't do this.
Right. So you don't get time to regenerate because you need to be using that time making money.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, this is the upside down world, and it's so hard to change it in one place, but we can. I mean, we can begin in one place. And one of the things you can do, I love the fact that you want to talk about this in a loving way, and you can be talking to your coworkers about this, and you can talk to your boss about this because she's probably going through the same thing you are.
Oh, and her little daughter and husband came in yesterday, and I just the guilt that she had about her, because it was a surprise visit, and she is so far behind at work anyway, and then to hear have her family come in, and her daughter's only 4, and has to carry on a full caseload and run the department and try and get a new aspect going in the business. And it's just, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah. Well, the question is, are we going to take this broken heart and collapse, get angry, or mobilize?
I want to mobilize, but I need help doing it.
Well, you bet. I think we all do. So I think we're going to take a music break for a minute. And this time we're going to put on number 5 of the Rumblings of Revolution, which we're still giving away as a free CD. So I hope that you have it there at Westmont. And I know that, anybody who is with us and gathered with us will get a free CD. But I don't know if there's anybody new there in, San Diego at your event. But okay, so let's see if we can get. No. So
You gotta change it to.
okay, I'm going to go through the whole rigmarole to try to get this going, to do the music right. Turn on original sound, and turn down the speakers, honey. And
Yes.
share the screen, and remember to hit the button that says share screen. I'm doing much better this time. Okay, and we're going to start. This song is called Love is What's Worth Fighting For, and I've used it before in our events, but it just feels like this is the point that we have to really ask ourselves, are we in and are we out? And to say that love is what's worth fighting for is almost embarrassing, because it's kind of, I know I should have turned off the original sound for this, but anyway, it seems so simple-minded, right? Oh, God. Yeah. Hearts need kindness to survive. Everyone needs holding. We all need to drop our pride. Destiny's unfolding. We've been taught to think in foolish ways, to care only about me. And the truth can cause us fear inside, but we cannot run from it forever. You can say whatever you like. Power is corrupting. I want to build a world that's safe for me, that's safe for you, that's safe for all. Love is what's worth fighting for. Destiny's unfolding. Now we're listening to our hearts. We will change the world from the inside out. Do you think that love is worth fighting for?
Yes.
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 I had the most ironic, could you turn up the speaker a little bit? Most ironic thought this morning. I may be speaking at Our Revolution in Eugene in December, and there's an event that afternoon called We the People, and they're going to be talking about, it's not Our Revolution, but something else, and they're going to be talking about democracy. And the guy from Our Revolution in Lane County in Eugene is going to recommend me as a speaker, and we'll see what happens. But the thought that came to me immediately about what to talk about is the challenge of democracy is that our lives are in the hands of other people who we don't trust and who can be, racist, misogynist, desperate themselves, scared, angry, exploitative, selfish, all of that stuff. And then I thought, but that's the beauty. Because our lives are still in one another's hands, we have to do something for everyone to make everyone feel loved and safe so that everyone is in a better, more generous space. As I was saying earlier, that when I feel relaxed and loved and comfortable and supported, I tend to be pretty darn nice. I get kind of rigid and freaky when I, feel people are attacking me or
you feel insecure or afraid.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, man, I thought, this is the beauty. The beauty of democracy is that if we don't take care of one another, we hurt each other. We have the power to hurt each other. And we're seeing that today, aren't we?
Yes.
So we have to fight for love. We need more love in our lives. We need to start treating ourselves in a loving way. And we also need to start fighting for more love for everybody, even if we've decided that you're in the wrong party or you're in the enemy camp in some way. Yikes. That's hard. Especially when I feel like I hate these people because of what they do to so-and-so or to such and such, or I see some gross miscarriage of justice. It's hard to keep in that remembrance that love is what's worth fighting for, and we have to help everybody meet their needs. Otherwise, the society and our democracy are going to look like this. Yes, Erica.
We have a comment.
Yes, I'm Joan Clark, and this is my first experience with this group. But I guess I am extremely blessed, but I believe that my blessings come from God. And so far, I haven't heard any mention of a supreme being in your thinking and your philosophy. If you could explain where that would work in.
Sure. To me, it doesn't matter if you talk about God, Allah, the universe, consciousness, love. To me, it's all the same. I had a spiritual awakening in 1978. And I felt very connected to what I called God. That was a voice that I heard that came through me that guides everything that I do. Okay. But what is that? And I think of that as the highest level of consciousness that we can possibly access. That I personally don't think of God as like some guy in the sky, right? But I do think of God as that higher level of consciousness. And so you're most welcome because, see, it does not matter what you call it. It's that belief in connection. It's the belief in love. It's the belief in love thy neighbor as thyself. It's the belief in what you do unto the least of my brethren you do unto me. That is God to me. It's the recognition of our oneness and of our connection. And so you are more than welcome. And I hope that you feel comfortable with us because some people use that word. And sad to say, Joan, and I'm sure you've seen this, people have used God to hurt one another. Using religion to torment other people. And as far as I'm concerned, I have to tell you this. I think that God created the universe the way it is and with all the diversity. And so who are we to walk around saying that my color or my gender identity is better than yours? To me, that's an affront to God. To me, it's also an affront to God to abuse the earth to not care about the regeneration of our planet, to exploit the seas and the earth and the sky, and to pollute and damage. To me, we are damaging. We are not doing our sacred job, which is to care for our planet. And it's coming, the chickens are coming home to roost. We're all suffering, and I guess that's what we need in order to wake up. But when it comes to that pure connection, the pure universality of oneness, I am with you 100%. And there's room in this tent for people who use that word or use another word, because basically we're all responding to the same thing. You know, we go outside when we were children and we looked up at the sky and we saw the stars and we said, wow, you know, I am so small. You know what I mean, Joan?
Yes, yes. Thank you. I would go along with that. Personally, I feel that what God has planned for me is to make my little corner of the world as good as I can.
Yes.
My talents or my beliefs. And I have a wonderful husband and family who support me. So I guess that's where it would come down to for me. And
yes.
I'm just trying to make, well, and of course in the building where we live here now, there's ample opportunities to be loving.
Exactly, exactly. The last time that I came to Westmont, when we talked, when, you know, on the I'm old, but I'm still me, you know, I talked about how many elderly people feel isolated and need love, and go out and start hugging people. That is a way that you can make a huge difference in the world. You're getting your need for love met by meeting the need for love of other people. I'm 100% with it. And, you know, we need that. That's not a small thing. I mean, that's the essence of the problem, is that we're not caring for ourselves or one another or our planet. And that is not small. That's everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm with you.
I couldn't agree with you more on that. If we could all take that attitude, I think the whole world would change.
You darn right.
Thank you.
Another comment.
All right.
You don't have to be too close.
God still wants you, everybody, to help themselves. You cannot do it yourself, but he does want you to work hard on helping yourself with everything.
Well, and of course, that completely fits in with what we're talking about today, which is what do we need and how are we going to start fighting for our own needs, even against our own attitudes. You know, we talk about, in fact, now this might be a perfect time to start talking about men. You know, how men have been socialized to not take care of their needs and to even consider it sissy to think about it, you know? And how that shows up is how much men brutalize one another and brutalize themselves. So would this be a good time to start talking about that, Todd? We were going to have a group of men really talking about, you know, in our world today, we're seeing one important, quote, important person after another being torn down because of their sexual dysfunction and sexual, you know, inappropriateness, sometimes abuse, sometimes rape, and so on. And it's like it's in the news every day. It's this one, it's politicians, it's the people, you know, in the media, it's your teacher, it's the football player, it's the Olympic team coach, and so on. There's an epidemic of abuse towards not just women, also men, sexual abuse towards those that appear to be weaker. And where is that coming from? And our way of dealing with it is exactly the way we deal with everything else. We punish, we brutalize those people who have this sickness just the way we punish and brutalize our prisoners who already have never had their needs met, or they wouldn't be these desperate, sick people. And like, why don't we just brutalize them some more and wonder why they don't get better? You know, why they end up back in jail. And so whether, you know, I'm not speaking as someone who has never been abused sexually. I've been abused sexually. I've been molested. I've been raped at knife point twice in my life. And, you know, so I'm not naive about this, but that doesn't mean that, you know, and, you know, in the old days, there were no good old days. In the good old days, my piano, you know, I'm 72, my piano teacher would French kiss me at the door. You know, a man on the subway when I was, you know, a child put his penis on my arm. You know, men would chase me around. You know, men would feel you up in the subway. You know, it's not like it was ever any better, believe me. It's just that it is now people are talking about it. You know, and as I said, I've also been violently raped. But that doesn't change the reality that something is going on with these men that's making them do this. You know, and it's such an epidemic, so much pornography, so much objectification. So when are we going to start addressing the needs of men? So Todd, would you like to take it away? We can't hear you, honey.
He's on mute.
In fact, I have a song that goes along with this.
Sorry, I put us on mute so that would, you know, the sound would be good.
Yeah.
I started to address that when I shared earlier.
Yes, you did.
I think it fundamentally comes. I mean, I've seen that play out in my own life, and I think it comes from a lack of love, a lack of really understanding. You know, it's part of the culturalization of men to be hypersexual. And it's also part of our own feeling of like, well, how else are we going to get that need fulfilled? There's like this desperate need, and we think the only way we can do that is by sexual expression. But it just feeds that addiction, because you have a sexual experience. It feels great, but if you're not getting the love in that sexual experience, which you can't be if you're raping someone, or you know, then you're just feeding that same desperate need. You know, that need for love that's underneath that is not being met. And so I think the solution is for us to talk about that and to support men to look at what do we need to get our need for love met, especially with men, you know, in a way that we can be tender with each other, that we can be caring of one another and not be called a sissy or a pussy or all those other things that boys get called when they're growing up if they express that past a certain age. You know, my boys are already we're talking about it, but there's still that cultural thing. They say, no, Dad, it's fine. But I sent Aiden a text the other day of a kiss, the kiss emoticon, and he's like, don't do that anymore.
Oh.
Yeah. Because his friends might see that his dad sent him a kiss over a text.
Oh, God, that's so sad.
Yeah. So that's, I think, what we need. And I'd love to hear from other men and really bring this conversation. Like, how can we create with amongst each other that kind of, we have in our men's group, we've gotten much closer to that than the larger culture of having that feeling of safety, of being opened up to share the vulnerabilities and not feel like we're going to get attacked or ridiculed. So we're doing it, but we just need to expand that conversation much larger to the entire society is how I see it. And I've definitely, I mean, I've been a part of that, of sexualizing women, of whistling, of, you know, fortunately, I've never, well, I don't know how in detail I should go. I haven't raped anybody. I haven't, you know, but I have been very aggressive about wanting sex and pushing it, you know, with my wife and with other women I've been with in the past. And like, they better put out or I'm going to be disappointed and, you know, angry and all those things. So that is a form of domination.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that, James.
Yeah, I'd like to follow on from that. this relates back to what Lizzie was talking about a little earlier, which is that I think when I think about sexuality and the sexual desire and so on, I'm trying to overcome a gap of feeling separate. And this separate feeling has been with me. I've been conditioned all my life to be competitive and to be isolated and alone and competing against other people to feel safe and secure and to get my needs met, et cetera, by making money and so on. And sex becomes a substitute for the fact that I don't feel the love and the connection with other people so much. Because in competing, everybody's a competitor out there. And so I feel separate from them. And so the sexual drive is a drive to overcome that feeling of separateness and disconnection. I know that for a lot of men, it's hard to experience the intimacy in a truly fundamental, vulnerable, loving way, but it's much more accessible to feel more intimacy when there's a sexual connection. And so a lot of the harassment or the objectifying of women, sexual abuse and so on, comes from that, I think. And so I realized that in my own past, I've had a lot of that sexual fantasies, objectification of women, just anything. Another aspect of it for me too is feeling so insecure in an insecure world and getting so stressed and trying to make it with ambition and achievement and so on. With all that stress, I've looked to sex as something, as a relief, as a release of the stress, the pressure, the insecurity, the fear, again, the lack of connection. And so to me, the solution is something along the lines of what I've been experiencing in the last almost 7 years with my mate, which is the profound, ever deepening, profound, loving connectedness, so that the other dissipates, because that was just brand X, that was a substitute for love. Sex was a substitute for love for me, and now love is the real thing. And so cuddling and holding each other and feeling close and be respectful and honoring of one another feels so much more whole and gratifying. The other is.
Gotta be somebody, hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to share.
Well said. Any of the other men want to share about what you've used sex for and what the real need is? Bob?
Yeah, I'm paralyzed from the waist down, and when I got back into the workforce, it was extremely competitive for me. I really had to show that I was either better than or as good as, and so yeah, it was very difficult when competing. Talking over women was something I learned early from my father. Dissing and dismissing women, of course, was easy for him because he was the breadwinner and she didn't do anything and blah, blah, blah. So, I've been fighting my own biases for a very long time and those tendencies that you get when you're competing. So I would love, I know I watched the Duke team, basketball team play, and they decided to wear equality shirts, as their protest to what's going on. They wore black shirts that said equality on top of the shirt.
Beautiful.
So very inspiring that, they're seeing this and their protests,
That was the women's team, you say? The Duke?
No, the men's team.
Oh, the men's team. Oh,
Isn't that
how about
fabulous?
that? That is fantastic.
That really
and they're the number one team in, in college. So.
Yeah.
Wow. Love it. Love it.
Thank you.
Looks like Richard is.
Richard, yeah.
Well, yeah, I'm not really sure what I'm going to say, except that two words came to mind earlier today, and I think it's related to this topic of men and how we don't relate, and that is relationship and connection. that I think as males, well, yeah, I think what was modeled for me is that you don't express feelings, that you are independent, that you do things on your own, that you don't really collaborate with others because you have this sense of competition. You can't really trust what somebody else is going to do. I mean, there's just a lot of messages that our society delivers to us as males. And I was listening to a program on NPR the other night about the sexual element. And I think we as men, and this is not my idea, it's not an original idea, but I think we have a sense of entitlement when we don't feel powerful in some area of our life, or we feel insecure, and all of us do in multiple areas, even though we may not act like it, and we want to project the total opposite of that, that then somehow, like James was saying, sex becomes a release, or it becomes an escape, or it becomes a fantasy to feel what we're not feeling in other realms of our life. And it's sad, you know. And the point this program was trying to make was that then we feel some sense of we as males feel some sense of entitlement to abuse, maybe not on a conscious level, but to take and be in control and have power over someone or something. And oftentimes that's with women, because it's much more challenging, it's scarier. Most, you know, I mean, it would be a whole lot scarier for me to confront a man about something who's my size or bigger, and I don't know what he's going to do. Whereas it's easy to confront a woman who's smaller or equal to me, but I still have this sense of I'm better than, or, you know. So I don't know if this makes sense or not, but
would you could you just clarify a little bit more, Richard, about how you've used sex?
How what?
How you have used sex, what needs you've been trying to meet with sex that are not really meeting your needs, but so how you might have used sex in your life.
I'm going blank. I've used it in a lot of ways to feel like I do have some control over elements in my own life that I didn't, or I was confused about. I was molested a couple times when I was very young, about between 5 and 7, and then again when I was a teenager by males, and so that confused. It confused me terribly, because what I wanted, what I thought I was going to get from these men, was a connection and love and maybe admiration. I don't know about that, but certainly a genuine connection. And that didn't happen. I was used, you know, and I think that I carried some of that with me and have acted that out with women over time. And I've struggled with pornography most of my life. And, you know, it's just been something that, like, it becomes a compulsion to relieve. This is what it becomes. It becomes I've used it as an escape from the inner turmoil or inner emptiness or inner pain that I felt as a person, as a man.
Yeah.
You know, that I was fearful of talking about with others, or thought I was the only one that felt this way, or whatever. And so I had to do something with that. I'm not saying that justifies anything I did or didn't do, but that's what I think happens with a lot of us, is that we find alternative ways to express something that we need to give voice to. And our society, and I grew up raised in Catholicism in the 50s, so there was a lot of guilt and shame that was promoted, and, you know, it was part of the culture that you grew up with. So it's not something that I felt okay to talk about, you know. I've always felt uncomfortable. I can just remember that. You know, how when I was younger, I'm going to be 71, so I can go back to, you know, 20s, 30s, and other men would make comments about women, and it made me uncomfortable, but I was afraid to say anything, you know. So it's just I don't know, there's just a lot of conflicting messages and feelings out there. And I think what happens and why there's this attack, and these men should be brought to justice and they should be confronted about what they're doing, but they shouldn't be ostracized, I don't think. They should be given some opportunities for self-examination and treatment and understanding of how the impact of what they're doing affects others and how it's affecting them and what it's done to their lives. And we tend not to do that. You know, it's like with movie stars and athletes, we love them when they're on the top, but as soon as they crash, let's get them, you know? And so there's just a lot of blame and brutalization that occurs. And I don't know how to change that. I really don't, other than to talk to people about it individually, you know, or come to something like this and voice it. But I don't know, it seems overwhelming to me at times.
Well, thank you very much for sharing that, Richard. That felt really impactful. And, you know, the first thing is we have to stop abandoning the abusers.
Right.
Because we are abusers too. You know, I don't know anybody who has never abused anybody, you know, and
whether it's emotional abuse or whatever.
Exactly. You know, we all have to struggle with that. And to take someone whose needs are obviously not met, or they wouldn't be behaving this way, and saying, okay, now I'm going to punish you, does nothing. So we really need to speak to this. We need to speak to other men about it, about don't abandon these men or point fingers or secretly wink like we know, you know, hey, too bad you got caught. All of these ways of dealing with it, and that women need to understand that too, that it's, yeah, I mean, the reason that I mentioned that I had been molested and sexually abused and raped violently was so that you would realize that I wasn't just, you know, in a cavalier way saying, oh, well, it's not so bad. I mean, it's not at all that it's not bad. It's terrible. But that I also realize that if we're ever going to fix any of the ills of the world, we have to start looking at what is it that people are needing that they're not getting that's causing them to behave this way. You know, are people going out and stealing because they were born with the thief gene, or are they stealing because they feel like they can't get their needs met, whether it's financially or otherwise? You know, or is it a way of feeling powerful and, you know, with other people because you're feeling powerless? I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on. We are not getting our needs met. Human beings' needs are not being met in a society where we're focused on profit. And we are seeing the result of that. And it looks like there's a person here that we don't know who's in the corner that hasn't introduced herself. And you are? Can you be on? We need to unmute. Yeah, who are you?
Hi. Oh my God! For a second, you know, I was like not confused, but just I don't know how the logistics of the show work. And so my name is Joanna, and of the share, not the show, but I guess a show is a share. And the more we understand that, it's okay to show our pain, right?
Yeah.
What's going on here? Wow.
Where are you from, Joanna?
I'm from Bulgaria originally, but I'm tuning in from Fallbrook. My therapist, Helen introduced me to you, to the circle. So here I am. And
wonderful.
Well, you're very, very welcome. And I'm sure we made a recording the first part so you could catch up on all the stuff, so you have a little context for all of this. Yeah, we've been talking about how, you know, our society, we not only are we brutalized, but we brutalize ourselves. And then in that context, we were talking about men who are brutalized from childhood, then brutalize women, and then they're brutalized for brutalizing women unless they're given a pass. And it never ends, does it? You know, when are we going to learn? So I'm going to share with you another song. Excuse me?
And we have one more comment.
Oh, okay, very good. While I'm looking for
Song.
Yeah, I'm going to look for the song.
Let's go ahead and have the comment then.
Sure, let's go for it.
Okay, I'm Stanley Cano.
Hello, Stanley.
I am 89 years of age, and when I first started to grow up, when I was 4 years old, my dad died.
Oh.
Now I had a sister and myself and my mother. And I found as time went along that in order to learn things for myself, I joined the Boy Scouts. And I was in the Boy Scouts all the way up to I was an Eagle Scout. And then eventually went to camp, which was the Eddie Cantor's camp for Boy Scouts, in helping out as an assistant counselor. But as time went along, everything stayed with me, basically because I learned an awful lot in how to take care of myself, how to live peaceably and being healthy. All I find is my life has been very, very good and done right, and in handling myself with my previous wife that I had that passed away, and my second wife that I married 15 years ago, and we seem to get along with life very, very well.
Well, that's so cool, because what you're really sharing with us, that it is possible for men to be socialized in a way that supports them, and then they become a blessing to our world. And that's a lovely thing that you shared. So I am now going to turn on a song. It's a little video, but it's actually it's all really a song about that I wrote for men. And it was inspired by the protests of the football players. And what they were protesting was not just was police brutality, but of course the irony is that football itself is such a brutal game, isn't it? It's kind of ironic. So this is going to be, it's really trying to reach out as a woman, my heart to men, in compassion for what men experience in their lives. And, okay. I'm almost there. Let's give it a try.
Full screen.
It's called Peel the Mask, in support of our gladiators and all men, and there is no sound.
Peel the mask from the white man, and you see an insecure boy whose father tells him to be tough and fight to maintain an America that never was. Peel the mask from the black man, and you see a frightened boy whose father tells him to look tough, to keep away the white man who can blow him away and no one would care. Peel away the mask from the Muslim man, and you see an oppressed boy whose father tells him he is tough and can rule once again. Peel away, peel away, peel away the mask of any man, and you see a boy full of hope and fear, clinging to his right to rule over women and kids when all else fails. Peel away. Peel away and see an alone man who fights his brothers because he buys the lies and isn't tough enough to admit that that's what he's doing. Oh, gladiators, you are to be seen but not heard. Spill your health and brains for our entertainment and trade them for the big bucks and glitter that will surely fade. We like our black men mean to one another, but meek with us. White men too. Peel away the mask of any man, and you see a boy full of hope and fear. Peel away and see an alone man who fights his brothers because he buys the lies and isn't tough enough to admit that that's what he's doing.
That song could have been written to any of us. Peeling away the mask and seeing what's underneath and all the pain and the unmet needs. Today we've scratched the surface, really, of what is done to people and how we don't even care for ourselves. The question is, where do we go from here? One of the things that we would like to share with you is we think that this conversation about what do I need, that I'm not even willing to meet my needs because I'm so afraid that I'm going to have to lose my income, that I'm going to lose my job, that I'm going to lose love, that I'm going to lose faith, that I'm going to have to admit. You look at our elderly people who have to admit, I'm declining, I need help, I'm lonely, I'm scared financially. There's a million things, you know, that we have to face as we age. You know, our fears, and do we even share them with each other? You know, how much more do we need love than we let on? When we go for admiration or popularity, how much we have driven ourselves and how much we have starved ourselves of our real need. I was very touched by what Lizzie shared about her boss and her 4-year-old child and how bad she felt about not being able to have that relationship and how stressed she is by work. So whether you're working or you're not working, if you're disabled or you're not disabled, or you're a man or a woman of any race, color, creed, we are all hurting and we have to change this world. So I would like to have some people share what kind of groups we have. So if you really want to come and start talking about this, about how we don't even meet our own needs, and, you know, getting the courage to support one another to get those needs met, we're open for that. We're also we'd love to have you join us in a way to help spread the word. There's so much to do. If anyone would like to make a contribution, the innerrevolution.org is a nonprofit, and we spend money, and we have no corporate backing. I know it'll come as a big shock to you that we have not been backed by ExxonMobil yet. But we are working on it, of course.
Of course not.
So, I mean, there's a million ways to share and to participate, and we want your ideas about how you can take this out. Our next event is going to be on December 2nd, which is a Saturday at the same time, 10 to noon. And we would love you to bring more people with you. I don't know what the theme is going to be yet. I'm waiting for that guidance. You know, it's like okay, what are we supposed to do in December? We're also having a retreat in November, but that you have to pay for that. We're having a weekend retreat in San Diego, and people as well as up here, upriver in the east of Eugene. And we'll be working together. I'll be leading that retreat on creativity as a way of living. I'm sure that there are flyers there, but let's have some people talk about what we have to offer as a place where you can come and bring people to really get clear about who you are in the world, what you need.
I'm ready to start. I can talk about the men's group, and we have a bi-weekly meeting on Tuesday nights at 8:30, and we are talking about this very topics. How, as men, can we, be ourselves, like discover that need for love and get that need for love met with each other? And how can we also reach out to other men to offer that to men, to help men that are struggling with these same issues, the addiction to power and, unconnected sexuality and just all the things that we described earlier. So that's one way that you can participate, is join our men's group meetings.
Thank you.
And it's a video conference call online, just like this one is.
Yes.
So it's very easy to attend. And this next one is this coming Tuesday night.
Hi, I'm Rose, and I talked about being a part of the couples group, but really we're changing the name to relationship group because it's really about relationships that we're open to any form. You could be working together, you could be brother and sister, mother and daughter, obviously intimate relationships, gay, straight, trans, any of that. And we have 3 possible ways that you can join us, which I'll say, and then I'll say a little bit about what we do. It's a bi-weekly call. It's video conferenced on Sunday nights every other week. And then also we have retreats with Beth, where she leads us in a full day or half day events where she supports us to look at something that she intuits that day. Always great for our relationship. And then we create some outgoing kind of events where the couples that are a part of the group go out and support other groups. So maybe like at Westmont, if you wanted to, we could create something that's customized to your senior couples or relationships there. And so those are all like up for possibility. But I was thinking about how we get our needs of love met in relationships, and that I personally, although other people shared, I'll say quickly that I was noticing in this conversation that I tend to dart around and get things done and don't stop and have those common moments that could be filled with much connection. And yet I love connection and I feel very fulfilled by it, but I've cut it off right and left, and I'm really glad to have thought about that today, and so I can increase that myself.
Wonderful, Rose. So glad you shared that.
I think I'm next. I would love to just let you know that we have so many forms of mutual support. And sometimes those are connected to our book studies. And sometimes those are just directly with one another, but always in a medium where it's easy to connect. We'll either use or we'll use this medium of being on screen together. So there's at least that kind of ease of connection where we see one another, we hear one another, and we have the possibility of just being exactly who we are. There are different levels of mutual support. One is the cognitive impairment group that I was talking about earlier, and that is because we support each other to stop hiding. In any of our groups, it's one of the ways that we can just feel comfortable with exactly who we are, so we can get on with the work of being more conscious human beings, regardless of what our abilities, our disabilities, our blocks, our fears. It's such an amazingly supportive and loving way to connect with one another and learn to be real and honest about who we are. So whether that is in the form of our ego recovery, which is A lovely name for where we started. We started with looking at, wow, there are so many ways to be addicted, whether it's to substance or behavior or other people, where do we find ourselves attaching in ways that are harming us personally? Then what does that look like? And so that evolved to really just calling it how we feel just so dominated by the ego, whether it's ours or other people's, or in the collective. We see it, we've been talking about it all morning. So we have handed out papers in this group, and I think they are with the main group, and it's also online now on our website, where you can find not only who to connect to if you would like more information about joining us, but we really welcome you. We welcome a conversation to see if any of these fit for you at all. I'm not sure I've covered all of the bases, and so gratefully I have a whole group of people to just fill in any gaps that I may have left wide open for you to just step in and please fill in.
By the way, that website is theinnerrevolution.org.
I was just going to
Yeah.
unmute.
No.
Oh, I was just going to mention the newcomers call in particular, which studies the different books that Beth has written that inspire and guide us and give us some structure and tons of wonderful tools to use in our daily lives that help us to live more conscious lives and help us get our needs met. So that is Thursday nights, I think it's 7 o'clock, and that's 7:30 every Thursday. And it's a particularly great way for newcomers to come into the mutual support system that we have to offer.
It goes for an hour.
That's lovely. By the way, who is 760-505-4312?
Chris Reese. Chris Reese.
Oh,
Chris Reese.
but
Okay.
she's there.
No, she's not.
Oh, she had to leave. Oh, okay. I thought, where is she? Okay.
That was one other thing I was going to briefly talk about is we have a family group as well for those who, it could be family of any age, but it's really about for those who are raising children. So if you have a child, I don't know, Joanna, if you have kids, but that's, Joanna does? Okay. Joanna. So we have a family support group, meets mostly on the weekends, Saturday or Sunday. But if you're interested in that, you can get in touch with me. I'll give you my email address, or you can contact Helen. But I'll give you my email address. It's Todd. It's pretty simple. TODD @theinnerrevolution.org.
We're coming to the end of our event today, and some of you may be feeling like, well, what do I do with all this? And that's what we're trying to ask too. I know we're right. It's that simple. I know we're right. I know the world would be different if we started meeting the needs of people and the earth. And I know we have to be different in order for us to start meeting those needs and realizing that we deserve to meet those needs and that is the purpose of our world, is to meet those needs. And, we have generation after generation after generation, century after century after century of societies that are based on exploitation and oppression of some people by others, and cruelty and separation and me, and all of that. And it just seems like it's the history of the planet, with a few exceptions. And so it's like, oh my God, well, what do we do about that? It's so daunting. Well, I don't know how you can change the world without changing yourself. And I don't know how to change yourself without changing the world. Because I cannot be myself in a world that stops me at every point. If I'm going to get beaten up for being who I am, it's going to change me. It's going to hurt me. It's going to make me a different person. James and I did something yesterday that was kind of interesting. We started having a little fantasy as if we had met back in 1964. He was 20 and I was 19. We actually only met 7 years ago, and we have a very mutually supportive relationship. But if I had met James back in 1964, what would my life have looked like? Who would I have been? And I felt it. I allowed myself to feel me back then with a loving, supportive husband, somebody who really understood me. And I could feel an entirely different person from the one I am today. And it made me sad. I'll never be that person. Never. I know that. But it doesn't, I'm not going to stop trying to be that person. And I'm going to use all the blessings that I have now and all the support that I have now to be that person. There was a calm, I could feel it. There was a calm in me that I never had. And imagine that if the whole society was oriented towards supporting all of us, so that we didn't have this constant fear about our health or our finances or our loneliness or being in an accident and having nobody be able to take care of us, or someone yelling at us or abusing us or being afraid to be sexual because we were going to be molested, or all of that. I mean, to think about who we would each be. Isn't that worth fighting for?
Yes.
Yes.
Not just for me, but for everyone. I want to see that world. I don't care how many or how few of us are here today. I know we're right. And I know that everybody knows we're right. You can see it on our Facebook page with the likes and the comments. And even the people who attack us, they attack us in such nonsensical ways that you know that they know we're right. Because they're not even saying anything. They're not even arguing with us. You know, they're calling me a name, stupid bitch or something. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, what does that tell you? They have nothing to say. You know, I feel for everyone. I don't care who you voted for president. You're in pain. So am I. Let's do something about this world. If you have any thoughts, suggestions, whatever, about how we can mobilize more, please bring it to us. Join us. Don't just watch us and applaud from the side. You know, be with us. Bring people in December. Talk to people. Just having a conversation, even if people don't show up, just having this conversation with people changes them. Yeah. And it changes us.
Agreed.
So I would like to close this event with a song that I'm going to make up right now. Which is terrible because I can't sing live any more than I can play live because I'm so disabled. I don't have enough breath to hold the pitch, and you're really in serious trouble. But I feel that I've just got to sing this song to close. Would anybody, before you have to listen to me singing, sort of singing with no music in the background, is there anything that anyone would like to share before we close for the day?
Just briefly, I feel very motivated and inspired. And, you know, I invited a lot of people, and I'm going to keep inviting, you know, even, like you said, even if they don't come for some reason, that the conversation itself opens a doorway. Like, there are people I can now talk with in a different way than I could before because I had the conversation that I had with them. And they're with me. They're on the same page, like Christine's brother. I mean, he totally sees this in his own company. He works at Bed Bath & Beyond, you know, teachers that I've talked to, multiple teachers. So it's there, and people resonate with the conversation, and that fuels me to keep talking. So that's what I wanted to share.
That's right. Nobody knows how this is going to evolve.
That's right.
Yes.
I just wanted to thank you for the space of inquiry, and the open-hearted inquiry into the subject is very moving. And I forget sometimes how committed I am to it. So just thank you for reminding me.
Thank you for coming. It's great to see you. Anyone else want to share something?
Well, I really wanted to say exactly what Todd said, that I feel motivated, inspired. I'm going to just keep asking people. And with every conversation, I realize that seeds are planted. Whether we ever see them here or not, their minds are changed. And I just want us to all remember that, and I certainly will. Thank you.
Thank you. You know, people don't even realize that we deserve to live in a different world.
Right.
It's like, you know, what is it going to take just to reach people with the idea that, oh my God, it could be different and it should be different. So we just keep going. I talk to everybody. I talked to this woman at Wells Fargo about canceling my flood insurance, and we had a whole thing going on. She's going to the Granny Rocks Rocks On website, and, you know, she gets it. Everybody gets it. You know, you can talk to anybody. Everybody gets it. Something is going to change. Something's going to happen. I just don't know how. Right? Let's keep the faith in the meantime.
Exactly.
One more.
Yes.
I just want to say how grateful I am to have brought you here to Westmont and brought Westmont folks to you, because it makes it so much more powerful part of my living experience to share you, and not you, but to share these in concepts to bring us closer.
Thank you. Lovely. And don't forget, we all need hugs. Oh, yes, we were all going to hug.
I think she was trying
Oh,
to
yeah,
say.
Joanna.
Joanna, you're on mute.
Yeah.
Here, let me unmute her. She may not know the process.
That's right. That's your consolation prize, is a hug.
1 second, Joanna, I'm just working on it.
And then Anne. Joanna and then Anne.
Okay.
There we go. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Hey, so just wanted to just tune into just the vibration of gratitude, and I am so thankful and grateful to Helen, who brought me into here, and I'm just I'm quite sensitive apparent, so I'm watching literally my goosebumps on my legs right now. Wow. This is doable, and we just have to roll with it. And
I love it.
Yes, it's doable.
I love it.
And we are here to remember what it is to be truly human, to be real humans, and we it's easy to forget. It's just really feeling into how easy it is to just latch on so much of the pain that's out there, and so much of the old stories and all these low cell vibrations that are out there. And they're there to remind us that this work is important. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. We're going to send you a hug. You know, I forgot we were all going to hug each other. Everybody hug. And let's hug the people online. Hug, 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 hug. And Anne, while we're hugging, yes.
Yeah. Oh, well, just thank you. And also, I was really moved just thinking about, you know, when you're saying like what would we have all been like, you know, it's like if you hadn't been abused for who you are, and just being a teacher, you know, it just gives me hope that I can like my daily actions, you know, like we're saying, we may never have like 2 million people in these rooms, right, or whatever it is, but I mean, we all have such an impact every day. It just gives me a lot of like hope and inspiration to think like that in my classroom, the world that we can create, you know, by my kindness and teaching the kids to be kind and to respect all people, you know, for who they are, that really does change everything. So thank you.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I love what Joanna said. This is doable.
Yeah.
Instead of saying this is impossible, this is like, well, this is doable. Hell, every revolution starts somewhere, right?
Right.
Yep.
This is my love song to you today. Wah, Let's raise our arms out to all the people on the planet who are in need and who are suffering and don't even know what they need, or are fighting for the wrong things and fighting for each other. Ask and pray for some moment of enlightenment where we just stop and we say, what is this all about? And what can I do? And let's reach out our hearts to everyone who we think is our enemy and bring them the same message. You probably need a hug today. Whoa, Until the next time, keep the faith, keep on looking within, keep spreading the word. Come back and we'll see you in December, on December 2nd, if not before. God bless you. Thank you.
Yeah. God bless everybody.
And those of us in the IR.org have a meeting right afterwards, so we'll be hanging around.
Yes.
Thank you for the love song.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Beth.
I don't know what happened. I hit it on pitch. Something, I was helped by this energy in the room. It's amazing.
The chi.
It should only happen more often.
This is great. How would you like a snack? Chips or whatever?
No chips. Almond butter, yeah. And thank you, Anna, for showing up all the way from the UK. Don't lose touch and come back to the Granny Rocks Facebook page or the InnerRevolution.Facebook page.
Yes.
Thank you so much for coming. You give me hope.
No, it was amazing. You're so clear, brave. Just no words. Very, very advanced.
Well, thank you.
Very, how to say, brave. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
What is needed? That is so much needed. That is so much needed.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us. Please spread the word any way you can. And we hope to see you again.
Thank you. You're amazing.
Thank
It's
you.
not the right word. It's not the right word.
It's
Honest.
good. I'll take it.
Honest. Honest is the right word.
What's the word?
Courage.
Courage.
Honest.
Courageous.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
You're
humane. Humane.
Humane.
We have to fight for our humanity.
Yes, we do.
Yes,
As our other newcomer said today. I love it. Thank you. God bless. Please come back. Please come back.